Welcome, awesome ones. I am Krista, the Bliss Mystic, the founder and creatrix of the Bliss Mystic Collective. I am grateful to be here with you. Welcome to my office. Welcome to my studio. We are here today for a Bliss Talk, and it's a beautiful reminder of the Bliss Talks to us all. And today we're going to be talking about undomesticating your intuition. I'll share a little bit about who I am, why you might be joining me in my office is I am here to remind you that our consciousness is a work of art, that we can design our consciousness, we can design our day to day as a living, breathing reflection of all of the creativity that is flowing through us. And I have been working one on one in circles and retreats for about 20 years, designing this approach of consciousness design with my clients, and love my work. And one of the components of this that I'm most passionate about Bliss Talks is that it is here and available to anyone at any time who has access to this, that I am here to bring consciousness design to the world. And so, in whatever now you are watching this, I am grateful to be connected and together. And the Bliss Talks have been something that I've been doing over the course of the time I've been creating consciousness design and creating the approach to really share some of the ideas as they come through in real time, and also to really continue to deepen my own practice as I live the path of consciousness design, and really taking and gleaning from writing. Right now, I'm writing the Bliss Manifesto, the next book coming out, and also designing an app, the Bliss Mystic Collective app. So there's a lot of creation happening, and the Bliss Talks are my way to be able to commune, to be able to share information and inspiration as it is really blossoming and becoming more clear in real time. So I'm grateful for this opportunity to be in connection in this way. And each Bliss Talk has a different theme as it comes through as I am creating. And certainly it's also informed by the time I'm in the office. Sometimes what I call lessons from sessions. If we were together on Instagram at the Bliss Mystic or at Krista.writes. And so I like sharing there as well. The passion I have for this particular approach is, again, born out of my own path, and really is a reminder again of that creative energy that we all have, that every choice we make shapes the world. And in some ways, we can feel the pressure of that power. And in some ways, we can recognize that that is an incredible opportunity. That when we are living in a conscious, focused, intentional way, then we are constantly creating, weaving, sculpting, painting, uh, uh, creating verse out of the life that we are living. So, one of the components of consciousness design is this facet of this approach. It's based on the four dimensions of the human experience, or inclusive of the four dimensions of human experience. This idea that we are not just a brain, we're cognitive, we bring that in. We are cognitive. We're also emotional beings. We are emotional, we have a heart centered flow of energy. We are also energetic beings, all we are is energy and we are all connected here. And that's pure physics. We're mostly empty space, but that is energy that connects us with everything around us. The particles, the charge, the human physics of it is really incredibly powerful. And we also have the gift of this amazing vessel, this biological body that I call the meat suit. And so consciousness design is respectful of the fact that each of those facets of our human dimensions of human experience, those facets of consciousness design are equally valuable and equally important in a holistic way. And yet we live in a culture that doesn't honor that each of those dimensions have their own wisdom. And that's a significant part of what we're going to be talking about today when we talk about undomesticating our intuition. So that is one facet of consciousness design, that we um, have these four dimensions of the human experience. And in consciousness design, we honor them all and the wisdom they all bring. The other component that I scooped, the facet of consciousness design, is that all we are is energy, that we are connected to everything by nature of we are that. We are fundamentally connected. We are fields within fields within fields, and the physics bears that out. And that is a mind bender. I very much am sitting here. I've always called myself a skeptic believer. Um, and what I offer is look at the physics of it, decide what it means for you. The language can be really confronting on a cognitive level to say, "Oh no, I'm a solid thing. I'm sitting here. I can knock on this desk. Like it's here," and it is. But when we look deeper, we are made up of the same particles, the same components. That when we look at it even deeper, 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 deeper on a more microscopic, even the deepest, most beyond molecular level, we are made up of the same stuff. And so, with that being said, then, the foundation of that is energy. So, if the foundation of our connection to all that is all we are is energy, electromagnetism, certainly this amazing meat suit, which is a work of art and a miracle. And yet, when we look deeper into it, on its base, at its foundation, which we may never find in a holographic universe, but all we are is energy. So, given those four dimensions of human experience and all we are is energy, fundamentally connected to everything that there is, another facet of consciousness design that I invite you into is that we focus on energy first, that we recognize that there is an element of mystery to quantum physics, to the human physics of consciousness design, that we can't point to a linear logical causality often in setting intentions, in creating our life from our choices. And that also can be a mind bender. So there's an element here of trust, of faith, of recognition that as I apply these different facets of consciousness design, I notice a feedback loop then and decide what it means for me and how I choose to apply it. And so we're looking at honoring all of the different dimensions of the human experience and the wisdom they bring equally. We're recognizing the fact that all we are is energy and therefore we are connected to everything. And when that is the case, if we focus in consciousness design on energy first, meaning that we focus our intention through the choices and actions we make, that will bring results, that will create a feedback loop that we can then continue to refine and play with and be the experiment. And another element of consciousness design as we move into this concept of undomesticating our intuition is the fact that our pleasure is a gift of consciousness. It comes from somewhere. And our yes energy, what draws us forward, what pulls out our passion is unique to us. We are one of the infinite faces of the same consciousness, and we all love and are interested in different things. We all want to contribute different things to the world. Some of us love to knit, some of us love to mountain bike, some of us love to sail, some of us love to game, some of us love to garden. All of those pleasures come from somewhere. And isn't it interesting to notice, huh, where do they come from? Why do I want what I want? Why do I desire what I desire? And that pleasure in consciousness design is the path. It is the path. The yes energy behind what you are passionate about, what brings you pleasure, what connects you to that energetic or spiritual effervescence that is bliss, that is ease and flow, is saying yes to your pleasure. And in this case, we're talking about life affirming pleasure. We're talking about pleasure that brings us energy, that makes us feel aligned with not just our biological meat suit, but also our emotion, also our cognitive yeses, and also the energetic pull, that mysterious pull toward what we do love and how we want to move energy according to our pleasure. And what I offer is that mystery of where our pleasure comes from is something I love contemplating and is a deep question of consciousness design. But pleasure illuminating the path makes so much sense. As I often say, the emotional math works out, the human physics works out, that here we are in the experience of being a conscious living as a conscious being in community with other conscious beings, making choices, some unconscious, some subconscious, some very clearly conscious. And when we align that with our pleasure, with the passions, with the energy of our yes, life feels really pretty delicious, pretty powerful. And this concept of that primal knowing, that our pleasure is part of our primal knowing, it's innate, it's something that we can maybe trace back to our childhood, why we paint or why we love to mountain bike or those kinds of things. We still have to wonder, why did we like it in the first place as a child? So when we think about that and bring that all the way through to its and this is where the cognitive can be incredibly valuable. It's a logical um, question of where does that come from? I find it's a mystery, and I invite you into that question. Where do you feel like your pleasures are sourced from? And I'd love to hear from you and let me know where you think they're sourced from, because this is a really fun conversation to play with. And so if our pleasures come from some innate place that we just have as we move into life as a human, that primal meaning, completely unrefined and also first. I'm a word nerd, so I love to share that, that primal, to be able to trust that primal truth as we're talking about today is interesting because it's there. We know it exists. We do follow it here and there, some of us more than others. And that is also connected to that innate knowing that some of us might call intuition. Now, there's a lot more we could go into about intuition, what it looks and feels like um, at its different levels, and that is something I love to talk about. And today we're going to talk about it as a basic innate knowing, and not just a knowing cognitively, but a knowing, a feeling of compelling wisdom that moves us forward, that isn't something we thought ourselves into, but is sourced from the holistic experience of our body, our heart, the energetic self or spiritual self, and also our cognition. So again, back to those four dimensions of the human experience, that intuition exists as part of our holistic human experience because we are human. And so there are a lot of levels there. And so when we look at intuition as that innate knowing, and when we recognize that we are a part of a culture that interestingly at certain times has really valued intuition, has valued innate knowing. And we, many of us who live in the States or Western influenced cultures, intuition is often belittled or pushed aside or demoted, devalued. It's a second tier, if not a third or fourth or fifth tier, or something that we're really supposed to um, look askance at. We're supposed to be really, it's supposed to be sus. It's supposed to be suspect. It's like, I don't know about intuition. I don't know if I can trust it. I don't know if that's really a solid source of wisdom. And that brings me to the undomesticated part, undomesticating our intuition. That lack of trust in our primal knowing, that lack of understanding and valuing of intuition is a cultural construct. Just as we live in a culture that pushes aside our pleasure or we need to earn it, pleasure is trivial, pleasure is accidental. Our culture treats pleasure as the carrot that gets dangled at the end of all the work, not an innate human right, not a source of wisdom, not a beautiful source of power. So we've got our pleasure coming from that primal innate place. We've got our intuition, this knowing that I fundamentally believe is a merged energy with following our pleasure, that our intuition is sourced from the flow that comes from opting in to saying yes to our pleasure, because at once we are trusting our pleasure and the path of our pleasure, we're also trusting this innate primal wisdom that is sourced from self within. The mystery, the human consciousness has these innate um, properties of I want what I want, what I want, I desire what I desire, and I know what I know, what I know, and I'm not sure where that information comes from or is sourced from. All of that is important wisdom, especially from a personal perspective. You are the expert in your life, and your innate pleasure, your primal wisdom, your innate knowing, your intuition, all entwined from your passion, from your yes energy, from what you're drawn toward, from the heart, from the energy. That is an incredible source of wisdom that is absolutely devalued by our pleasure rationing, also very rational, logical, linear, prove it to me culture. Now, this is not me devaluing the importance of cognitive wisdom. What it is bringing the wisdom of our hearts, of our bodies, and of the mystery of our energy up to the same level again. That ability to trust your primal wisdom, to feel into that intuitive knowing, that intuitive pull, to be able to answer the call of your pleasure needs to be re recognized, and for some of us, recognized for the first time as such an important facet of consciousness design, of how we live our life. And when we live in a culture that is devaluing pleasure, intuition, these other sources of wisdom, including the wisdom of our body, that that if the cognitive wisdom is utterly the pinnacle of the wisdom that we can accrue and attain, we're leaving a lot, we're leaving so much wisdom behind. So the invitation here is wow, noticing that culturally we are taught to ignore or talked out of a lot of wisdom just by nature of existing in a very logical, linear, cognitive forward world. And that has come through the civilization and domestication of the human experience. Get in line, work until it's time for you to be done working. be be the cog in the wheel that you are supposed to be to create value for the system within which we live, a colonialist, patriarchal, capitalist system in which you are a facet to create value for the system and not to honor yourself within. And when we bring that, when we center self again as a part of a innate collective of the human experience, that pleasure is a is our birthright, that intuition is our unique wisdom in balance with all of this other wisdom. We have to recognize, wow, we've been domesticated out of our own intuition. We've been domesticated out of saying yes to our truest pleasure. We are in a place of feeling constant restlessness and confliction about, oh, when should I take my vacation? Or, oh, should I, get that pumpkin spice latte? Or, oh, we are filtering the wisdom of our pleasure and our intuition and our desire through the shoulds that are imposed on us by our culture. Wow. Okay. When I deep go deep within to my primal self, I know what aligns for me. I know what feels delicious. I know what moves me forward in my family, in my career, that brings momentum and energy to how I create in the world, in my relationships. I know it. I feel it. And yet, I live in this culture too. And these filters of shoulds, does this make sense? Is it logical? Is it that time in life to go on a big vacation? Do I have enough vacation time saved up? Do all of these questions are us in our humanness being domesticated into being what serves the system, which is different from the collective, serves the system and not me. So it's gleaning value from me as I deny and domesticate my own pleasure and desires and intuitive wisdom. And we see this often in our own lives, still in my life. Things like working 9 to 5 or needing to one of my examples is I'm a nocturnal person and I'm not a morning person. But the world tells me that the morning people are going to rule the world because get up and at 'em and early bird gets the worm, and that's awesome. If that's your intuitive primal wisdom to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning because those are the times that you feel most creative and energized, hell yeah. I am not one of those people. And I have been domesticated into recognizing that my creative time, feeling the most juicy until 2 in the morning, is frowned upon. And I had to ask myself, does that matter to me? Does it matter to me that the world thinks, the culture thinks that morning folks are going to be the one that get the worm? Well, okay, so those folks get the worm. What do I get at the end of the night? When I'm nocturnal, when I'm freshest, when I'm most energized and most creative, when I can bring the most value and glean the most wisdom from my consciousness design, for my consciousness design and for my creations that I'm putting out in the world. That is one of those experiences that I invite you to question those shoulds in your life that have come from fitting into the rhythms of our Western human culture. Now, do we still have those pressures of showing up for our family, of um, of creating financial support for ourselves to thrive in this world as it is? That is all still true. And in addition to that, my invitation to you is to look for where you can be the experiment, when you can invite more undomesticated parts of self, aspects of self, practices and habits into the rhythms. So we're really striking a balance here. And so that I offer to you for self-reflection, for self-inquiry and self-intimacy of where am I following the shoulds? Where am I trying to squeeze myself and my essence and my primal wisdom, my intuition, my pleasure-led interests into where they are allowed to exist? And are there ways that instead of busting it all down, although trust me, I would love to do that sometimes, where can I undomesticate myself little by little and really honor the intuition, the primal wisdom that's coming through? Again, little by little, incrementally, in micro choices. And just ask yourself that question. Just play with it. There's never homework here in the studio during sessions. There's never homework. It's all play. It's all experimentation. Find your edge. Live your bliss. So invite those questions not in a judgmental or a concerning way. Invite those questions in a playful way. Invite that noticing of your own domestication in a way of like, huh, isn't that odd? Isn't that interesting? Isn't that funny? Um, what can I do with that? What can I learn about myself in these explorations? And not, no shame, no guilt, no self judgment. Those are energetic black holes. We're not going there. We're bringing energy and we're channeling it into our yes energy, into creativity, into undomesticating those sources of wisdom with these choices that do fit into our lives, that do honor the life we've already created. And yet, every choice you make shapes the world. And so, as you're aware of this, start to notice. And you'll also notice that you'll feel it in your body. So, as we talk about body, the somatic experience of being human as a source of wisdom, again, just like that primal wisdom, the energetic connection, the honoring of emotion as information, we also have been invited to ignore our body as a part of this domestication. That we see, this idea of our body is something to conquer or something to master rather than something that is an ally, or our meat suit is the thing we get to ride around in on this earthly journey, which is just so cool. It's a miracle what it's doing right now. I don't have to think about breathing. I'm still breathing in and out, but man, when I do it consciously, when I focus it in a pleasure based way, when I do it in a way that's a bit impolite, perhaps here and there out in the world. If I need to take a deep breath or if I need to shake it out and like just get myself back into myself, people might be like, what's going on with her over there? It looks like the wild woman took over. Yeah, undomesticate. So we're undomesticating our body as well in order to access that wisdom. And so when you feel into that intuitive, innate knowing that I believe is innately as well connected to our pleasure, to our desires, to our yes energy, to our creative energy, that we're intuitively drawn and it will feel exhilarating. We will get sensations in our body that feel expansive, that feel like we are in the flow. You might feel them in different parts of your body. Sometimes I feel it, I get a bit breathless. Sometimes I feel like that roller coaster feeling in my solar plexus. So we're talking about the heart power center or heart chakra. We're talking about the solar plexus, the seat of our power, where we might get a tingle and a squeeze in our root or our pelvis, like, ooh, that feels nice. I'm a yes for that. I say that often. I'm a yes for that. And it's usually my body that speaks first. And if I let that flow, and I undomesticate what my body really wants. Sometimes it just feels like it's exploding out the top of my head. So maybe some really wide open spiritual quantum drawing into the yes. So if I let that speak and I really feel into what it feels like in my body, I feel drawn, pulled. I feel the yes. It brings a smile to my face or a smirk or I wonder where this is going. And when I feel into a should or a domesticated, well, these are the options I have. I have A through D to choose from. I got to pick the best option. So I'm going to pick C. Even you notice my body language. I'm like, ugh, well, it doesn't flow. It feels constrictive. It feels like I'm compromising myself. It feels like I'm trying to fit myself in to that domesticated sense of self that is allowed, that's polite, that is um, in service to the system and not the collective. The collective, yes, of all of us, I really do believe is that pleasure is the path for every single one of us as individuals, but also because all we are is energy and we are connected. The more we say yes, we are the living, breathing prayer for others to follow their yes. And so my invitation to you is to listen to your body. And if this is the first, or feel into your body, and if this is the first time you've considered your body as a source of wisdom, awesome. That's a part of consciousness design, and many of us have been separated from, divorced from, taught to ignore or numb out the wisdom of our bodies, and you are not alone in that. So, my invitation to you is when you are just feeling into your pleasure, feeling into your intuition, feeling into that draw, that pull of your desire, of your yes energy, of that innate primal wisdom. Notice if you feel constricted or shutting, like closing down, or if you feel open and drawn forward. And I'll use the example here of, intuitive, that innate wisdom of pleasure, of the yes energy. It's not all awesome choices in the sense of, I always use this example. I love having my house beautiful smelling, like beautifully smelling. I love having my house as a sanctuary. So I have to take out my garbage and recycling. It's not my favorite thing to do, but it's connected to my pleasure. It's a very intuitive wisdom that I take care of my space. That is very life affirming. So I might constrict a little bit, that it's like something I just might have to hold my nose through, but it brings an expansive energy when I create that change in the world for myself and get to revel in the sanctuary that I've created my home to be. And so I invite you to recognize there are certain parts of our pleasure, certain parts of our intuition that bring wisdom that isn't um, the traditional sense of pleasure or bliss that we're used to. This like self-serving, gotta get mine, by any means necessary, sort of like I will like paw my way through the crowd to get mine first. That is not life affirming. The idea of instant gratification or short-term pleasures are more life denying, numbing out. And again, oftentimes a response to this domestication and divorcing from our innate primal wisdom, our innate pleasure led consciousness design. And so, my invitation to you is to be gentle with yourself as you are discerning that. And if you are listening to your body for the first time, notice where you might be needing to discern and interested in discerning those different um, ways that we think about pleasure in this culture. And in my case, when it comes to consciousness design, pleasure is always life affirming. And what may feel good for a few moments or a few days or is more of an escape from versus a deepening into the life that we're leading, that's how you discern the difference there. And so with that being said, that brings me to what I offer is as we start to wrap up together is this concept of discernment. Discernment as we align with this complete wisdom is, my invitation to you is to be gentle with yourself as you start to engage this feedback loop of undomesticating. That oftentimes we feel like we want to throw it all off and burn it all down and run free through the woods, like that kind of energy. I can appreciate that sort of pendulum swinging energy to claim what is yours, to undomesticate full on. And if that's in your capacity with your choices, every choice you make shapes the world, so you are the expert in your life, go for it, in whatever way feels most life affirming. But I will offer a part of consciousness design that's so impactful for me as I practice it is this idea of all of this is applied. None of this is just esoteric wisdom. It's very deeply applied and meant to shape our world in a very organic, primal way. So that discernment comes with practice. And that discernment comes as we listen or feel into our bodily experiences deeper. It comes from really recognizing where we might cognitively override with those domesticated shoulds. And we domesticate ourselves right out of opportunities and creativity of different ways, insteads, I call them, insteads we might use. Instead of the domesticated way of doing things, might I insert and shape my experience with more of this intuition, more of this innate primal wisdom, more of this pleasure illuminated consciousness design. And that discernment is yours and yours alone. It takes practice, and my invitation is for you to start with what I call micro choices, that you're going to tap into that intuitive wisdom, that pleasure illuminated path by inviting in that wisdom as you're making small, less impactful, but still important choices, like which tea you want to drink or what you are choosing to eat or what you're choosing to wear today, and really feel into where's my body drawn, where's my heart drawn, what emotion comes between the white sweater and the blue sweater. I opted for the white today. I was drawn to the white. I don't know why. There's the mystery again. Energetically, I don't know why I was drawn to this sweater, but it gave me more pleasure in the moment than the blue sweater did. So here I am wearing the white sweater, and I get to accrue all of this power as I'm moving through the day with efficiency, by choosing my pleasure, creating more alignment and flow. And that discernment can happen in even the smallest, most micro decisions throughout your day. And so practice, 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 and feel where your yes shows up. Notice if it brings a small smile to your lips. Notice if it is even a challenging task, if it's ultimately connected to your pleasure or your intuitive knowing, your innate wisdom, that this is the path for me. This brings me the most ease, the most flow, the most peace, the most exhilaration, the most bliss. And so that discernment is yours. Start there with those micro choices and really start to invite yourself into your yes energy. There's a lot of permission granting here as we undomesticate. And so it can feel sometimes that we're doing something wrong or shameful or impolite. And that's for you to discern how far you want to take it. But if it is life affirming, it it serves you, it serves the collective. And that discernment is yours and yours alone, as I've shared. And so none of these shoulds will come from the outside or come from me or from consciousness design. In fact, you, as the expert in your life, owning your sovereignty, is the most fundamental and significant facet to trusting your primal wisdom, to undomesticating your intuition. And so I invite you to play with it, to notice where you can align with that pleasure, with that intuition, with that innate primal knowing, to undomesticate little by little. Listen to the feedback loop, notice the freedom, the increased energy, the increased flow of power, the increased feeling of sovereignty over your choices, even if it's little by little. Every choice you make shapes the world. So, my invitation to you is to play with it. As we wrap today, thank you for joining me here for this Bliss Talk. The Bliss Talks to us all. So, I invite you to notice that for yourself, to invite your yes energy as the birthright, as the reflection of life force that it is. And if you have reflections, we're all mirrors and messengers for one another in this consciousness design journey. So please do reach out in any way, here through the page or on socials, at the Bliss Mystic or Krista.writes on Instagram. That's a great place for us to connect as well. Um, One of the phrases from Unlearn Moderation is, we are being sold interaction as connection, and it's just not the same. And what I will offer is, there's true connection here. I am here and present for you on your pleasure illuminated consciousness design journey. Even if we may never meet, we are fundamentally connected. We are infinite faces of the same consciousness. All we are is energy. And so please know that I'm really grateful for your time and attention today. I hope some of these reflections are beautiful mind food for you, and that you reach out if you feel called to do so, as we continue this joyous experiment of consciousness design, and we all find our edge and live our bliss together. So, wishing you much joy as you undomesticate your intuition and learn deeper trust in your primal wisdom. And I wish you a great path moving forward as you play with it. So much fun. I'm going to be doing the same as well. And thank you. Thank you again. And rock on.